Yes, yes. Welcome to the ancient world of tabletop games. I am Agamemnon from the historical documentary Time Bandits. This is a report from a fugitive. This video was delayed slightly by the pressing need to upgrade the studio. And I don't mean in a major way. Minor alterations will knock everything out of joint as deeply as major changes can. I demolished the barn and brought in state-of-the-art flaming gas for the lighting. However, this video was also delayed by the pressing need to upgrade supporting facilities in a major way. I couldn't tackle the major upgrades until I'd sorted the minor ones first. In order, for legal reasons, burn out the tired fields, send old rulebooks to live on a nice farm, and remember to polish the golden rule. What kind of minor upgrades kept me busy? Oh, the usual, adding spares. I have spares to spare in almost every category. The studio is split between front, where the computer lives, and back, here at the table. Technically, no, I don't have a spare door unless you count the window. To make sure the stuff that's caught on camera is caught on camera, deep-sea cables travel through the titanic bookcases that split the room. Those cables serve vital causes. One cable leads to the second monitor. At a glance, I'll see if my visual demonstration veered off camera, or I'll notice that the camera quality is rubbish for some reason. Without that second screen, I'd buzz back and forth like a blue-assed fly on a mission to devour all the strawberry jam. There are multiple cameras. I have a second Yeti microphone. If I'm forced to, I'll take my last computer out of carbonite and fire up the engines. But the one thing I didn't have in abundance, in spares to spare, your basic USB cables. In upgrading, choose to buy in more of the same or go one better. I chose longer cables with Go Faster stripes and flashing lights on top for blizzards, or possibly buzzards. The cameras are now connected to the computer through 5-meter cables, and that's a reasonable limit in terms of cable management, though there are technical limitations on data transfer beyond that length worth considering. I found the cameras zapping out as I moved them. Those 3-meter cables didn't quite cut it in giving enough slack for safety, so I added smaller extensions for range, and the more cables you link in a chain, the more problems you have. That network of chaos had to go. What to do? The solution was to remove all the cables. Yes, it sounds simple on toilet paper. This was a feat worthy of Heracles. I had 3 cameras, a monitor, and a spare mouse on the go, as well as a scanner way at the back of the room, off in the corner where I had space for it, just next to the Ark of the Covenant and a broken flux capacitor. I wanted to add more equipment. The monitor and mouse area needed a spare keyboard. I set up video and microphone operations from the main computer, and then I fired up the machinery to operate it all from the other side of the great bookcase of China. The cameras are nearest the wall. They need the longest cables when reaching all the way to the other side of the universe. This overhead camera needs a lot of slack to cover the table, but the keyboard and mouse, the monitor, only need the 3-meter cables being closer to the Berlin Wall of books. I shuffled devices around, added them up, and concluded that I was wise beyond belief to arrange a 7-port USB hub. Plugging the reshuffled cables back in, I filled the hub to brimming, atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. It all worked. 3 cameras, monitor, keyboard and mouse, and a scanner. The Great Wall also carries a cable from one of the light sets. That was for convenience, clearing away the floor further along. Now I can record videos from all 3 cameras, switching from one to the other at will. This wasn't possible before. I could only have 3 cameras on the go if one was plugged into the USB port at the front of the computer, separate from the rest heading to the back. It seems upgrading the USB hub accidentally overcame the limitation, or the moon was in the right phase. Doesn't matter. The arrangement functions with all the functionality of a functioning functional system, and that's good enough for me. Space is everything, and the management of it is everything that's important. Once the cables arrived, I had a world of planning to do and switched my studio off while I wrestled the electrical bits and pieces into place. It's not enough to upgrade things. You must make sure those items work once they are in position. The one innovation that saved me was a cable management hole at the back of a massive cupboard unit that now serves as my desk. This slightly longer detour by an arm's length leaves the business end of the USB hub with the switches in a far more convenient place. Before you buy anything, measure everything. There's now more slack in the system, with fewer links in electrical chains, and the studio is a better place for that. So much for minor upgrades. What of the major changes? I realise that I must tread back into painting figures in a big way. This is akin to going to Mordor twice over, just to be sure. The veteran plastic sheet just won't cut it any longer. It's not that technology replaced it. Covering a table in a large plastic sheet for painting purposes made sense when players arrived en masse to assist in painting figures. Everyone chipped in for the paints and the brushes, and with their time, the large plastic sheet was covered by a multitude of painting sins. We'd buy boxes of figures on a Saturday and prepare for the gathering of painters on a Sunday. It didn't matter who painted what. The job was done and the pieces were ready for use the next week. And we had a communal stock of figures for gaming, players scattered to the four winds, across the seven seas, to all the imaginary continents of many worlds. Now I stare at what's left in terms of figures. I painted my fair share of Pendragon figures. They weren't mine. All these knights in armour, and that game wasn't mine either. The game went with the player and the player's figures. So I must I must build up my own stock. How much variety is there in my own collection? Not enough to run games, if I choose to use figures to run games. And I so choose. So I'll build up a supply of figures, and that means paints, brushes, and 3 wishes from a shiny unicorn. These acrylic paints served well enough. Those enamel paints did their time in the trenches. Enamel paints are brush killers, and these dead brushes were used 3 times over beyond their natural spans. My videos were delayed by the need to set up a paint studio. More on that another time. Here's a minor upgrade, or a plan for one, still stuck in limbo. Dice replacement. I can't wait any longer, so I'll put this video out before I upgrade the dice. The great dice tower, Moloch, strides across the table with mighty... Well, no, Moloch has no legs, and I am all fingers and thumbs when it comes to table management. Therefore, I decreed that the 4-sided die had its day. Lifting a d4 from a dice tower is tricky even without gloves, and I don't even bother filming the woeful experience just to edit the bloopers out. This reconstruction is for crime scene reenactment purposes only. These 4-siders were key witnesses in the death of the 0-sided die. As expected, the trial had no result, and that is a role-playing fact. It's time for these pyramids to go. Depending on the placement of numbers, the d4 is moderately puzzling to read when it isn't outright baffling for beginner players. It is pointy to the point of being more pointedly painful than standing on Lego. I've never found the d4 easy to lift off the table, roll, or read. The solution? Buy in a supply of 12-siders with the numbers 1 to 4 printed on them 3 times over. Finally, the 12-sider comes in from the cold and takes its place at the table. No more dangerous pointy dice. Why, to purchase a metal d4 is asking for trouble, but don't take my word for it. Here's a fictional guest star in the form of a Dungeons & Dragons character filming in an actual dungeon to warn of the perils and pitfalls of pointy 4-sided dice. Perils and Pitfalls was the player-friendly successor to Sadists and Masochists, an early RPG that took the dungeon in an entirely different direction. This short public information film contains fucking swearing. Some viewers may take offence at the bleeping of profanity. You have been warned.
Hello, my name's Baradin, and I'm here as a favour to Agamemnon to show you today the glory of metal dice. Now let me show you. I recently purchased a pack and got one sent free back from China because they don't know how to fucking send one in the first place and then send 2 at once. Here we have some wonderful polyhedral decision makers at their finest. Now you'll notice these 2 sets are both laced with the finest purple, and you know what? Let me tell you, that's not where it stops. We have a selection of iridescence. Now, I happen to have ones that are particularly shiny here, but they, as you can see, they're a little bit, I don't know, hard to read. Now, these other ones with a more matte finish, you'll see have a bit more of a glossier effect, and despite my camera's inability to focus well, it's a bit clearer to see when you're doing these mad rolls and hoping to slay a dumb dragon or 2. Now, one thing I will say as we're rolling here, I would recommend that you do maybe take care of where you roll them. They're a little bit stiff and they're a little bit less fluid when it comes to the more angular ones, such as our D6 and our D4. They'll also take a good old chip out of your goddamn wood. But as you can see here, the more rounded figures, if you put enough force into them, will give you a more even and distributed focal point of numeracy and accuracy. If you're looking for something a little bit less, I don't know, say, plasticky and shit. Now, what I do recommend is that you, while looking through your dice, come up with the right way to make sure that you're not scoffing yourself or your well presented friends. Lovely sofa, a talk shater, I mean table, haha, one take glory I am. What I did is I got a wonderful little bit of a dice tray. But first I wanted to check and see the lethality of them. And let me tell you, you don't want to fucking stand on these D4s. They'll take a goddamn chunk out of your foot. Unless you're, well, let's say a rogue with an agenda to stab a man's foot with traps. Now here is a dice tray I prepared earlier. And you can see here me rolling. Now, with the limited space, they do a bit of rolling. But you'll have to really force through your decisions and your accuracy, as well as that they're a little bit, I don't know how to put this, but they're a bit smaller. Now, not by much, but a discerning player may look at them and go, these metal polyhedral weapons of death seem a little bit small, but I assure you, they are exactly the same size, if not minuscule, in their difference when it comes to absolute circumference glory. Now, I'm probably saying a lot of these words wrong, and you can see here our D6 is a bit smaller. But let me tell you, they'll do the job, but I would recommend that if you're going to get them, that you get a good dice tray. Now, I'm going to leave you with this here. I've got to get back to such adventures as, oh fuck, the milkman just shagged my wife. Anyway, I'll see you later, lads. Peace.